Hey guys, so when solving equations, generally we would follow the rules of distributing if possible, combining like terms if possible, and then isolating the variable. But like what was in the little footnote, that sometimes we may add a step or two to make problems a little bit easier to solve. This is one example. So when I look at this problem, I obviously have three fractions. So in order to solve for x, I would have to add 5/6 to both sides, and then I would multiply by the reciprocal. But with fractions, we know that you need to have common denominators, and that all can get a little bit messy. So I can avoid this step by having to find common denominators, and I can basically get rid of fractions by multiplying the entire equation by my least common multiple. So if you've forgotten what the least common multiple is, it is the smallest number that the numbers are factors of. Like the LCM of 3 and 4 is 12. You can also just think you can find a common denominator as well. But the least common multiple between 3, 6, and 12 would be 12. So I can multiply this entire equation. And again, I can do this. I'm multiplying the left side of the equation by 12 as well as the right side. I can do this because of the multiplication property of equality. So when I multiply 12 times 1/3, you may be able to do this in your head, but I'm going to show my work off to the side. Okay, and again, it's 12 over 1. I'm going to cross cancel. 3 goes into 12 4 times. 4 times 1 is 4. So I get a quantity of 4x. I'm going to bring down my sign. I'm now multiplying 12 over 1 times 5/6. Again, I'm going to cross cancel. 6 goes into 12 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. And then when I multiply 12 times 5/12, my 12s cancel. Okay, and notice guys, I'm kind of ignoring my signs and just bringing the sign down and then multiplying my least common multiple to the fraction. Okay, now I have a way easier equation in my head to solve without having to deal with fractions. So in order to isolate x, I would add 10 to both sides. -5 and 10 is 5. And then my last step would be to divide both sides by 4. So my answer is 5/4. Again, I'm always leaving my answers as improper fractions. I'm not changing that to a decimal or a mixed number. And if I wanted to check my answer, I can use my graphing calculator. Okay, so you may not be completely familiar with the graphing calculator, but I'll show you how to use it. So every time you type in fractions, you want to put them in parentheses. So 1/3 would be 1 divided by 3. Okay, I'm substituting this 5/4 back in for x to check my work. So 1/3 times 5/4. Now I need to subtract 5/6. And if I did this answer correctly, or if I solved this correctly, I should get -5/12. Okay, this is in decimal form, so in order to convert back to fractions, I select and choose the math button, and fraction is highlighted, so I hit enter 12. Enter. And there's my answer of -5/12, which means that I solved this correctly. So my advice, if you have multiple fractions in an equation, is to multiply the entire equation by the least common multiple.